Well, hey there, friendships. Welcome back to Curtis's Corner. If you're new here, hi, I'm Curtis. This is my corner, and on today's Film Friday, we're going to talk about my top 10 favorite 90s horror movies. I did a 2-part video. You can check out part 1 right up there and check it out for yourself to see how it all looks and see if you agree with any of my opinions. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about my personal favorites out of the entire decade. Now, some of them are going to be in the same spots as they were from the previous 2 videos, but I have swapped a couple of them around and obviously have taken out a bunch. If you're interested in seeing my top 10, then keep on watching. So coming in at number 10, we have The Sixth Sense. The reason why I've put The Sixth Sense at number 10 is it's an enjoyable watch, it's a slow burn, but there's a lot that's happening. It keeps you on your toes, it keeps you guessing. The effects that they use still hold up to date. The acting is absolutely wonderful. This is probably M. Night Shyamalan's best film to date. Hands down. If you don't know who M. Night Shyamalan is, he always adds a twist in his films. The twist in this film is beyond crazy, and upon rewatch, you actually pick up on the clues, which is why I love this movie and why it's in my top 10. The reason why it's not higher is because I just have a personal preference for the other films obviously in this list, which is why it's my list and not yours. Other people might say this is their number 1 film. This is my number 10. I can watch this over and over again. It does end up losing its shine the more and more that you watch it, but it brings it back when you end up watching it with someone who's never seen it before. And that's what I also love about this film, is that first watch, second watch, even third watch, it's still a phenomenal film. Again, you can watch it 10 times and it still be good. It's just going to lose its extreme magic that it has within it unless you watch it with someone who's never actually seen the film before, and then it brings all that magic and that like nostalgia that you felt when you were watching it back into the picture again. Coming in at number 9 is Sleepy Hollow. I just absolutely love Tim Burton and pretty much everything that he does. Johnny Depp as well. He's a fantastic actor. This film is the best of both worlds. When I was a kid, I loved the Disney version of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, that whole little video thing. This is basically the live action of that, obviously without Mr. Toad because they were 2 separate stories, but The Adventures of Ichabod Crane, that is what this is. I fell in love with the cartoon. I fell in love with this. Tim Burton does replications very well. He stays true to the source material as best as he can. Obviously, you have to change things, going from novels, books, short stories, stuff like that, comics, onto the big screen. But for the most part, he does stay true to everything and keeps the kind of like the lore. He did that with this. The visuals are absolutely fantastic. There's some that are a little tiny bit questionable near the end, but that's because this is also a 90s film. CGI was not as good as it is now. However, you look past that, the acting is phenomenal, the action sequences are phenomenal, the story is great. Everything about this film I love. I like the tone it gives. There's a small hint of comedy here and there, the romance that's intertwined within it, the small elements of horror. It is wonderful. It is beautifully shot. Cinematography is just outstanding. Tim Burton knows how to make a film, and if you've never seen it, hands down, need to watch it ASAP. Coming in at number 8 is Interview with the Vampire. This is another extreme slow burn, slower than The Sixth Sense. However, if you know me, I am obsessed with vampires. 2, I love the storyline of this entire film. I love the acting that Tom Cruise gives as Lestat. I love Brad Pitt in this. This is like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise at their finest. They are wonderful. Kirsten Dunst is also in this, and she's like itty bitty. She is so good in the role that she plays, like better than Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense, in my opinion. This is why this is higher than The Sixth Sense. The storytelling that they do is wonderful. The romance elements, the romantic undertones that they give without explicitly coming out and saying are absolutely wonderful. The small action sequences that they do have in it are phenomenal. The small horror elements that they have in it are also very effective in telling the story and getting you involved with these characters. I think this film is a wonderful, wonderful movie. It is definitely a classic, and it is definitely a good film to constantly rewatch over and over again. And speaking of films that are classics and rewatchable over and over again, we're diving into number 7, which is Misery. This is probably one of the best book to film adaptations ever. Stephen King wrote the book Misery. This is a wonderful adaptation of it. I love Kathy Bates in this. She plays Annie Wilkes to perfection. She comes off very loving and nurturing, as well as horrifyingly unhinged. The switching of her personalities to become this caring human and then this unhinged psychomaniac is flawless. Like, I will say it's really up there with James McAvoy and his interpretation of multiple personalities in Split. It's very well done, and all I'm gonna say is the hobbling scene is just, I still to this day cannot watch that. I always have to look away because it is so painful to watch, and it's just so yucky to look at. I can't. But the revenge, the horror, the claustrophobia that you feel in this, it really puts you right into the film, and you feel for the main character who is going through all of this horrific stuff. So again, wonderful and just amazing upon rewatch upon rewatch. Number 6 is a bit controversial because not many people like this one, and I don't know why. I think it's because they really turned away from the formula that they had in the first 3. This is Bride of Chucky. I honestly really enjoy this. Jennifer Tilly as an addition into the series is fantastic. I love her, and I love Brad Dourif's characters, Chucky and Tiffany, just like getting along and basically bouncing aggression off of each other while still it's very much like Joker and Harley Quinn, but there's more love, but also a lot more anger. They don't really hate each other. They get in a lot of arguments, but there's an overall just love for each other in it. And I like that they bring in this new aspect into this film franchise. And on top of that, I love Chucky's design. I like how he's stitched together. It brings a creepier factor. And yes, it does amp up the camp. It does amp up the humor in this, but there are still those horror elements that keep it that horror movie. And I think it still works perfectly. The characters, the human characters they're okay, but you don't watch it for them. You watch it for Chucky and all of the kills that he's gonna do. And that is why I like this film, because it keeps you entertained from start to finish, and it's funny. It is a funny film, and it's so good to watch over and over again. Coming now into the top 5, we have Dracula. This is one of my all-time favorites. I have seen this a bunch of times. I love Gary Oldman as Dracula, and the different depictions that they do for him, the costume design and the makeup and prosthetics for him are out of this world. You see him as a very old man. You see him as the young Dracula who's suave, pristine, dressed up and fancy. You see him in his Drake days. Drake? Is that his name? Vlad. Is Vlad the Impaler Dracula? I can't remember the lore. You see him as the knight fighting everybody off. You see him in his pristine, dressed up, fancy clothing. You see him as an old, decrepit ancient man wandering around Dracula's castle. Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing is okay. He has a very small role in it. I wish it was bigger, honestly. Keanu Reeves, wonderful actor, could work on his English accent, but still fantastic in his role that he does. It's just atmosphere, cinematography, story, the romance, the horror, the unease that you feel when Dracula is kind of approaching everybody. It's so well done, and I think this is the perfect depiction of Dracula, because he is supposed to be this person who entices you into a trance, basically, to fall in love with him so he can take advantage of you and basically either kill you or turn you into one of his little vampire minions. It is so wonderfully done, and honestly, the effects and everything still hold up to today. It is basically perfection for a Dracula film. I honestly don't think that there is another Dracula film that can meet this. There are some that come close, but I think this one still holds that top tier spot. Number 4 is The Craft. Along with my vampires, I love my witches. Magic, anything to do with magic, I am in love with. This film, it's camp, it is goth. It is literally the depiction of 90s goth. If goth could have a soundtrack, this is it. The film's score, the film's cinematography, the film's costume design, all of those scream 90s goth. It is absolutely wonderful. Neve Campbell is in this, and I think this is like her second best role in my opinion. She's honestly, while I love everyone else in this, and I think her role, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure her role is like a little smaller out of the whole coven, but I feel like she is one of the main reasons why I keep going back to this film. Main reason number 1, it's witches and magic, but reason number number 2, I'm pretty sure, is Neve Campbell, because I just love Neve Campbell. She is a phenomenal actress, and she adds a lot to this film. No matter how small of a role she has in it, it's still a fantastic rewatch. And the climax and the effects that they use are very practical and very well done to hold up to today, and it will still be a wonderful rewatch every time that you watch it. Now, here is where I started getting some difficulty trying to put my top 3 together, but I finally figured it out. Coming in at spot number 3 is The Blair Witch Project. This one is a terrifying movie without it actually being terrifying, because it plays with your brain. That being said, cinematography, it is very much a handheld camera, like camcorder type of film. This is basically the film that started all of the camcorder type films, like Rec Quarantine, which is the American version of Rec, VHS, Cloverfield, all of those, Paranormal Activity. These are found footage films that work, and they are all based on The Blair Witch Project. Honestly, I don't know what else I can say about this film other than it is basically perfection. It is so well done. The acting is very real because they were given just an outline of the scene that they were supposed to be doing, but they weren't told what was going to happen. The directors, the producers, cast and crew, they were all basically playing tricks on these 3 main characters to get them freaked out, because they were actually in the middle of a forest, camping out for days or weeks, however long it took. And half of the reactions that you see in the film are genuine and real. They were actually scared. They were actually crying. They were actually like hyperventilating, freaking out and running, because they actually thought there were things in the woods out to get them. And on top of that, the marketing for this was phenomenal. They made it seem like these 3 actors actually did disappear, that the Blair Witch did get them. They put up missing posters. They put out a way to make it seem like it wasn't going to be a pretend film, and really made it seem like it was going to be an actual found footage. These kids died and we found their camera type deal. And the fact that you literally never see the antagonist in this, it still gets you and really gets inside of your head, because you're thinking that you're seeing and hearing and noticing things when you're probably actually not. And that is why I like going back and rewatching this film, so that way I can actually see if things are happening or if it is just in my head. But either way, that is the element that I like in a horror film. That is why I go back constantly and rewatch this film. Coming in at number 2 is Child's Play 2. This is probably the best Chucky film to date. The horror and suspense and action that it brings is like 9 out of 10. It is so well done. The acting is amped up to a good solid like 9 or 10 now, and the climax of the film, the whole big giant battle between Andy and Chucky, it's so well done. The location that they chose to do the end battle is such a wonderful place to end the film, because of how big and elaborate and spacious that this is, where there's so many places that you can go, but not enough places that you can hide. And how ruthless they made Chucky. Like Child's Play, they had him, you know, out to go and get a body, so on and so forth. Child's Play 2, it's the same motive. He still wants his body, but now he's pissed because he didn't get the body he wanted. So now he's really angry and trying to get it like tenfold. So it brings up that suspense and action, and just you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, while it's still kind of being funny because it is a tiny little doll running around everywhere. It's still really good, and the violence, it's brought up as well. And finally, my number 1 spot, if you didn't guess it already, it's Scream. Scream broke the mold for horror. Yes, it's a slasher flick. Yes, we had slashers with Jason and Freddy and Michael, but nothing like this. This was a whodunit slasher. They poked fun at the horror tropes. They made it super meta by having you basically be a part of the film yourself while watching it. No, they never interacted with you, but they told you the rules of every single horror movie that came before it, where they were referencing Halloween or The Thing or just anything else that came before it, mainly some John Carpenter stuff, some subtle hints towards Wes Craven, as he was the director of this, and to Freddy Krueger as well, because he literally appears in the film and dresses up as Freddy as just like a small little cameo. However, this film elevated the horror genre and swung all slasher films into the field. It was, I don't get baseball references, I'm sorry. Again, Neve Campbell, phenomenal. Matthew Lillard, he's goofy in it, but well done character. Courtney Cox and David Arquette, wonderful additions. I wish they did kind of make David Arquette's character a little more serious, but he is more of a comic relief, and it does still end up flowing. Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time he is a good comic relief to kind of ease the tension. But still, the mystery behind who the killer or killers are, it keeps you guessing, because they throw you clues but then immediately wipe them away, only to throw you a different one to lead you to someone else. But then it's constantly making you think back and forth, and all of the practical effects that they use are absolutely fantastic. Acting is phenomenal. Just honestly, if you haven't seen Scream by now, what are you doing? It's such a good film. I have probably seen it like 10 times. Go watch it. If you've never seen it, you will not regret it. The whole franchise is fantastic. Some films are weaker than others, but the whole franchise is absolutely one of my favorites. So that is my top 10 horror films of the 90s. If you agree with my list, if you enjoy my list, leave this video a like, leave some comments down below, letting me know if your opinions are different than mine. That's okay. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. That being said, subscribe to my channel because I put up weekly videos, and hit that notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video, because if you don't, how else are you gonna know when I post a video? You won't. So do it. I will see you on Monday for a new makeup video. But until then, goodbye, friendships.